Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Engage 8 podcast. I am Josh with my co-host Mike. Before we get into it today, don't forget to like and subscribe. We finally hit 200 subs, so thank you guys all for that. If you're not subbed up already, we would greatly appreciate it. Today we have a couple things to cover. We're going to do our first mock draft for the NFL season. We're going to go back and forth for all of the non-playoff teams, so essentially the NFL lottery teams, and do our mock draft for 2025. But before we get into that, we need to recap what was an amazing Final Four national championship game. We'll start with Florida and Auburn in the Final Four. Florida winning 79-73. This is a game that looked like a lot of Florida's tournament games. That first half was all Auburn. We saw Auburn put up 46 points in that first half, led by 8 at halftime. Janai Broome looked really good in the first few minutes of this game, but then it kind of seemed the adrenaline wore off for him, and you could see the injuries were just really taking a toll on him. His ankle, his elbow, just you could tell he was just not himself. He ends up finishing 6 or 14 for 15 points, missed both threes, was 3 for 7 from the free throw line, which was brutal. Chad Baker Mazara was the MVP for Auburn in this game. He had 18, he hit 4 threes, kept them in this game late, but it was just Florida's destiny to win this game. It felt like they outscore Auburn 41-27 in the first half after giving up 46 points in the second half, sorry, after giving up 46 points in the first half. Walter Clayton Jr. has another 30-point game in this one, 34 points. It's 5 threes, all 7 of his free throws, 11 for 18 from the field. Elijah Martin had an all-time dunk in this game as well. He had 17. Condon, who was probably looked at as the best player on Florida going into this season, before Walter Clayton absolutely exploded. Only plays 23 minutes in this game, fouls out, only has 1 point, 3 turnovers, 4 rebounds, doesn't make a single field goal in this game. Thomas Hall coming off the bench really was able to give them good production from the big man position. He had 12 points and 2 blocks, 7 rebounds. He was great in this game, but this was, like I said, this is the story of Florida's season. They're a second half team. They don't always come out hot. Sometimes they're not great defensively in the first half, but in the second half, they locked in defensively. They were able to get it done, and they were able to get Walter Clayton the shots, and they move on to the national title game.
Yeah, they struggled in the first half. And the second half, they dominated. Walter Clayton continue his fantastic tournament. 34 points in this game, 5 3-pointers, the first consecutive 30-point games this deep in the tournament since Larry Bird in a long time ago, 1979. He does it in the Elite Eight and then the Final Four. He's was ridiculous on this run for Florida. He's been great in their SEC tournament, great in this March Madness, and it's just continued. Elijah Martin, like you said, he had that huge dunk. He was also fantastic in this game. He was someone who had experience playing in the Final Four. He's been there with FAU, and his experience showed. He goes 6 for 10, 17 points. He was great. Hauk off the bench continued to be a great addition to the offense for Florida. Alex Condon again only gets 1 point, but defensively, after a rough start, like you said against Janai Broome, he did get better as the game went on. Drew a charge late in the game that was very good for him, and Janai Broome's ends here for Auburn. A lot of their guys' career ends, considering they were all so old. They just didn't have it in the second half. Didn't shoot the ball very well. Tahad Pettiford, after he was having a blazing hot tournament, goes in this Final Four game and just couldn't really get anything to fall. Doesn't hit a 3-pointer. Goes 1 for 6 from the field. So a rough game all around from Florida, especially really just that second half. They just didn't have it. And Bruce Pearl 0 for 2 in Final Four games now. So we'll see how if he can ever get one down. Sometimes it takes a while, but Florida wins this one. Kind of very close game, but the difference is really just Walter Clayton. And when you have a guy like Walter Clayton who can hit clutch shots late in the game, you can win the game, and that's what happened for Florida.
All right, the second Final Four game, we had two great ones on Saturday. Houston beating Duke 70-67 in what was an all-time choke job from Duke. In my opinion, this was the most crazy, unexpected ending to a college basketball game I could ever remember. Duke leads by 6 with 30 seconds left, and Houston finds a way to win this game in regulation by 3. LJ Cryer had his best game of the tournament, shot 6 for 9 from 3, hit 26 points on 14 shots, played every single minute of this game. Sharp was great as well. He was inefficient, but he still hit 3 threes, which was very important for them. Juwan Roberts was great on the glass, 11 points, 12 rebounds from him. Uzan and Tugler did their thing as well. Duke looked great for most of this game. They led for almost the entire game. Cooper Flagg had 27 in this game with 7 rebounds and 4 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. He was all over the place. He was so good despite the loss. Kon Knipple as well, 16 points. Tyrese Proctor, 2 for 8 from three. Oh, or sorry, 2 for 8 from the field, over 4 from three, 7 points overall for him. And the most inexplicable part of this game was Tyrese Proctor not passing the ball off at the end when Houston was fouling, and he wanted to go to the line despite being the worst free throw shooter on the court for Duke. He said, I got it," and he just did not have it. It was unbelievable that he was not willing to pass to his teammates, who were all great free throw shooters except for him this entire year, and it really cost them the game. But I look at Duke, and here they sit, third year in John Shire, failing to get to the national championship game here. They have not been to the national championship game since 2015, 2016, and everyone wants to talk about John Calipari, all the guys that John Calipari's had, and he only has one title, and he can't get to the title game again, despite having all these 5 stars and all these first round picks. Duke hasn't been to the national title game in 10 years. They have had Brandon Ingram, Luke Kennard, Jason Tatum, Marvin Bagley, Gary Trent Jr., Wendell Carter Jr., Zion, R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, Paolo Banchero, Mark Williams, Jared McCain, Cooper Flagg, Kon Knueppel, Maluak. They've had all these guys that are going to go on to be first round picks, that are going to go on to be great players in the NBA, and still, despite all that talent, they have not been able to cut down the nets in 10 years. And to me, that says it doesn't really matter if you have all that talent because it's hard to win with freshmen, and there's no harder championship to win in sports than college basketball and March Madness. It's a tough tournament. It takes no prisoners, and we see Duke, who was being crowned as an all-time team before this game, go on and have one of the worst choke jobs I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. They just choked it away. They had this game won pretty much, and they just found a way to lose instead of finding a way to win. The one concern we had kind of with this team going in was that they didn't get much bench production, and that happened in this game. Only 4 points off the bench from Brown. That was all they got off the bench. Everything else was a starting lineup. Pretty much a lot of Cooper Flag. He had 27 points on 8 for 19 shooting. He was great in this game, the best player on the court. But in the end, none of that matters because they just basically threw the game away. Could not beat that Houston press. The first turnover was bad, and that killed them. And you get the ball, you get the chance to go to the free throw line, and Tyrese Proctor, like you said, doesn't give it up, shoots the free throws and misses it. So it's really not as much. It's just a Duke choked it. Houston does win the game. Yes, they find a way to win, which is what they've done all year. LJ Cryer had struggled a little bit in this tournament, but he was great in this game. 26 points on 8 for 14 shooting. Sharp was good in this game. He shot 3 for 7 from three in this one, 16 points. And Jawan Roberts was solid as well. He had 12 boards, 11 points, a double-double for him. It's just that Houston defense, they swarmed. They held Duke to 67 points, which is impressive because this is Duke offense has been great all season. It's been dominant, putting up a lot of points, and they held them to 67 points, but they still didn't really have a good chance to win with 30 seconds left. It's the press got to the younger guys, Cooper Flag, Kon Knueppel, Tyrese Proctor with the bad turnover. Zion James had a couple bad passes. It's just it's unfortunate for Duke and Maluak, who's been great all tournament. He was very, very rough in this game. 4 fouls. He only finishes with 6 points on 1 for 2 shooting, 0 rebounds for a guy who is, I believe, 7 foot listed as 7'2", and you get 0 rebounds. That's almost hard to do. Houston just out uh, was the tougher team in this game, and down the stretch, the mentally tough part for Houston won them this game. So just what a win by Duke or Houston, and they've done it all year, only 4 losses, and it was just if you're a Duke fan, I would I don't know if I could watch that game again ever again.
Yeah, it was brutal. And we move on to the national title game here with Florida cutting down the nets in San Antonio, 65 to 63 over Houston. Once again, another comeback win for Florida. Houston led by double digits at one point in the second half of this game. It looked like they were in control. Houston's not a team that blows leads because they don't give up in games. They're usually going to just slow the game down and play at their pace and just take time off the clock and win a game if they're up double digits in the second half. But that was not the case in this game. Unfortunately, Juwan Roberts missed a ton of close shots in this game. He shoots 3 for 13, 8 points for him. Cryer did not have his best game. He ends up hitting 4 threes, but still 6 for 18 from the field, 19 points on 18 shots, turned it over 3 times. Sharp was bad in this game, 1 for 7 from three, 3 for 11 from the field. They shoot 24% as a team from three, which would usually mean they're going to get blown out, but they were able to hold Florida to 25% from three. Neither team shot it well. Both teams hit six threes. Houston attempted one more than Florida did. But yeah, the story of this game, Jesus, the story of this game, I was on live for this game on the Engage 8 TikTok, and everybody was coming in after the game talking about Houston versus refs, this, and that. The refs gave Florida the game. Here's how I view it. Yes, the refs in the second half did favor Florida, but it was mainly just a stylistic way. In the first half, they didn't call any fouls. They were letting everybody play. They were playing a super physical game, as Houston tends to do. And Houston's going to always benefit from a game where the refs are going to swallow their whistles. Even if they're swallowing it on Houston's side or against Houston, Houston's going to benefit when the refs are not calling a ton of fouls. And in the second half, the refs completely switched up their philosophy. They called a ton of fouls, as we tend to see in a national title game here in the second half. And that benefits a team like Florida, who's playing against a physical team like Houston, where if you're going to call a ton of fouls, Houston's going to get called for a lot of those fouls with how physical they play. And that's going to benefit Florida. So I think it really evens itself out. I think both teams, regardless of the free throw numbers, the game was refereed pretty fairly, in my personal opinion. And Florida goes out there and just wins this game. Walter Clayton didn't play great either. 1 for 7 from three, 3 for 10 from the field. Will Richard was huge. He hit four threes, I believe, in the first half of this game, which kept it close for Florida in the first half when it could have been a blowout even that early into this game. Condon was a lot better in this game. He still almost fouls out, but he has four steals, 12 points, seven boards. He was great. Thomas Hall played 24 minutes. He did not have his best game, but it was fine because Condon was able to get it done. Chinyalu gets teed up for slamming the ball on the ground after a foul, which was shades of Isaac Humphries at Kentucky or with Kentucky at Texas A&M a few years back. But regardless, Florida gets it done. They cut down the nets. They come back in three games in this tournament. We saw against UConn, they looked dead in the second half. They came back and won. We saw against Texas A&M down in the first half, came back and won. We saw it against Auburn down in the first half, came back and won. And then here against Houston, down in the first half, down big in the second half, came back and won. This Florida team was the comeback kids all tournament long, and they end up cutting down the nets. And congratulations to the Florida Gators.
Yeah, the comeback kids got it done. The issue I have with the reffing is I'm just not a fan of completely. It was just such a drastic change from the first half to the second half. Where the second half they swallowed their whistles on pretty much anything. There wasn't really many calls at all. And then the second half they were calling it for pretty much any foul that possibly happened. And I just don't like that. There's got to be a balance in between, or there should be a balance in between where you call some fouls, but some you do swallow your whistle. It felt like the second half just never even got really a chance to get in rhythm because every time something would happen, it'd be a whistle blown. How many foul? 11 calls against Florida, 19 calls against Houston foul wise. And I think at one point it was nine straight foul calls on Houston, which is a very big number. I think there was four, like three or four on one possession against Houston, which it's just touched. It's not as good to watch basketball wise. It's just annoying. But Houston is a very physical team. They're a defensively physical team. They held Florida to only 25% shooting from three. They held Walter Clayton to 3 for 10 shooting. I think he was 0 for 7 for a long time, deep into the second half, kind of. He gets 11 points, though. Will Richard is really the main reason why Florida wins this game. In the first half, he kept him in it shooting wise, hit four threes in this game. He was really the only guy who could consistently hit shots downtown from them. He's the only three guys hit threes. Walter Clayton hit one, and Elijah Martin hit one, and Will Richard hit four. On the other side, though, Houston, they just really couldn't again get in a rhythm. Sharp was very bad in this game. As the last possession, he unfortunately doesn't pump fake it. He goes up for the shot and turns the ball over. Very rough watch, but he did not have a good game, unfortunately for him. 1 for 7 shooting from three, 3 for 11 from the field. We see Milos Uzan go 0 for 4 from three after having a great tournament. Just could not hit shots. And really, LJ Cryer was the only guy for Houston that could consistently hit shots. He finishes with 19 points, was by far their leading scorer, the only scorer in double digits for Houston. So Houston had this game won, and just like I said for Duke, if this was a way my team found a way to lose like this, it would absolutely be heartbreaking. And that's what Houston did. They just couldn't get shots late in the game when they needed them, and Florida was able to get to the free throw line a couple times late in the game, and that's really what won Florida this game. So, congrats to Florida on becoming the champions, and the SEC after having their dominant year, they get it done with a championship.
Yeah, SEC gets seven teams in the Sweet 16, eight teams, and there are four teams in the Elite Eight. two teams in the Final Four, and then they cut down the nets in the Natty. So I guess it just really does mean more in the SEC in 2025.
Mm.
But sorry for
Oh,
interrupting you.
we didn't even mention that the Cooper Flag foul versus Houston, that wasn't a foul. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah,
The over the back
I'll
call
never sympathize for Duke with the
late in the game.
referees.
I'm not sympathizing with them. I'm just saying it. That whistle was terrible. I think all Final Four. I don't think these referee jobs were good at all. I think the refs sucked in this Final Four.
When have college basketball refs ever been good?
No, I
They're
know,
notoriously
but they
horrible.
decide games, and it continues to happen every single year, and somehow that's allowed.
So you think Duke guarantee wins if they don't get that call?
I don't think they guarantee win, but I'd rather see a game end on somebody having to get a bucket instead of a team just winning going to the free throw line,
I
kind of like
agree.
Florida did.
I mean, Cooper Flag had the chance to get a bucket,
I mean, he had a chance to get a
missed the
bucket, yeah, and
shot.
he didn't. But I mean, if Houston had to go down and get a bucket, that probably would have been them with how that game was going defensively.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I also think it's insane for Duke fans to be like, we only lost because of that. Like, you also didn't have a bucket in the last 10 minutes of that game. That's why you lost.
I'm not, I mean, that's not the only reason they lost. I'm just saying that's a big
I'm
reason.
not saying you're saying that. I'm just saying the people that are saying that.
Yeah.
It's a hot topic online and it's great. It's honestly I love being able to listen to Duke fans complain about the refs and blame the refs for their loss because out of all the teams in college basketball, they're the one team that cannot do that.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah.
2015 Final Four, they shouldn't have won a title.
hmm
Just Winslow touched it, but you
I'm,
don't hear them complaining about that.
I'm trying to think. I think that Virginia run might have been the worst ref run of all time. Just random thought.
Is that just because that's the year you guys lost in the Final Four?
Well, no, they were on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah. I
They
just
had the game against Purdue where shit happened.
Oh, you meant just for them. I thought you meant that whole tournament. That's what I
No,
thought you meant. Oh,
just
okay,
for
I got you.
Virginia. The Virginia Auburn game was,
Yeah, and then even the Purdue game as well.
yeah.
But okay, we can move on now to our first NFL mock draft for the 2025 season. We're gonna do the top 18 picks for this draft. We're gonna go back and forth. I will start with one and make the easiest pick in the draft with Cam Ward at number one. He's the best quarterback in this draft. Tennessee, you're at number one. You have to take a quarterback here. Brian Callahan's entering year two. He knows that if he doesn't take a quarterback here and he rolls a Will Levis and it doesn't work out, then he's on a deep, deep hot seat for next year. So they have to take Cam Ward. I think he's super athletically gifted. He has a good strong arm. He's very accurate. Now, do I think he'd be the number one pick in a lot of QB drafts in the past 5, 7 years? I don't think so. But in this draft, he's easily won one, and I think you have to take him with the number one overall pick if you're Tennessee, unless you trade out. But assuming they stay here at one, and we're not going to do trades in this mock draft, give me Cam Ward at number one.
Yeah, now comes to number two, and this is one of the hardest picks of this entire mock draft because you kind of just have no idea what the Browns do. They have really three options. It's either they go and get a quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. They need a quarterback with Deshaun Watson, everything that's going on with him. Maybe they go Abdul Carter, get a edge rusher to go and pair with Myles Garrett. I think that's the likely option, or go and get Travis Hunter, um, a guy who can play potentially both sides of the ball, but will probably play more cornerback. I think I'm going to go with Abdul Carter, though. I think that's likely where they're going to go with an edge rusher. They need another edge rusher to go along with Myles Garrett, and getting Abdul Carter with Myles Garrett would be just a very, very scary sight for quarterbacks. He is fantastic. 6'3", 252 pounds, had 12 sacks last season and 66 pressures, the second most in college football. He's very good. I'm going to go with edge rusher Abdul Carter from Penn State.
Okay, I'm very happy you did that because I was not going to have the Giants take Abdul Carter had he fallen. I'm going to go with the Giants taking Travis Hunter, the two-way phenom from Colorado. I think he's one of those guys that he's just a can't miss prospect at this point. Whether people want to say he's a jack of all trades but a master of none, as we've mentioned before on here, or you can say he's a dominant corner who can also play receiver. And I lean more that way. The Giants can use some help in the secondary, and he's going to be able to fill that need and be a day one corner for them on the outside. And he's also a guy that the Giants don't necessarily need a ton of weapons, but he's a guy that can go out there and play some snaps at receiver. And that's what I expect from him in the NFL. I don't expect him to be a full-on two-way, but I don't expect to never see him at receiver. I think we definitely do see him play some receiver as he was, what do you have, like 12 touchdowns or something this year at Colorado. So I think we see him play both ways a little bit, even early. But overall, he's one of those guys that even if he was just a corner, he's so talented, and I think he's going to be one of the best corners in this league very soon. So give me the Giants not taking a quarterback and picking Travis Hunter at 3.
Yeah, so number 4, New England Patriots. I think if Travis Hunter's not at this spot for the Patriots, I could see them trading back, but we don't have trades. I'm gonna go with Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU, 6'6", 219 pounds. They do need help on that offensive line, specifically offensive tackle. He could be an offensive guard, but I think he could still play, especially at left tackle. Mike Vrabel's gonna want to beef up the offensive line. That's very important for this team to block for Drake May. So they need weapons. I think they get that later in the draft. I think they take Will Campbell here.
Okay, for the Jags at 5. This is a very interesting spot for the Jags. They could use some help on defense, specifically in the secondary, but I'm not going to take Malik Starks. I think it's a little bit crazy to take a safety at number 5. I'm going to go with Mason Graham. I know they have some D-line support already with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen, but I still think they could use a ton of help in the pass rush. Having those two talented guys didn't do much for them this year. They were not able to get to the quarterback as much as they wanted to. And I think if you add a guy like Mason Graham in there, now you have three D linemen who can all get to the quarterback. You can mix them, match them, however you want to play them. Maybe you move one of them to the inside for a little bit. Maybe you drop Trayvon Walker back a little bit and have him play a little bit in coverage. I think you just give yourself so many more options on that D line for Liam Cohen and the Jags. And Mason Graham's a super talented player that I think is going to make an impact early in the NFL. So give me Mason Graham to go number 5 to the Jags.
Okay, Mason Graham, number 5 to the Jags. So Las Vegas Raiders are sitting here with the sixth overall pick. Um, there's a couple things they could do here. They need a cornerback. I think they could go out, get a corner. Will Johnson's out there. Um, I think that's definitely an option for them. He did have I believe, a pretty rough pro day or whatever. Didn't run the fastest 40. I think the Raiders go cornerback. I think they could trade back here. I think this is definitely a team that at the sixth pick, I think the Raiders do trade back with a team like the Bears. But I'll pick the Raiders going and getting a guy like Will Johnson, a cornerback, DB. So I got Will Johnson at this spot.
Okay, so we got back-to-back Wolverines going 5 and 6 despite a down year for them. At number 7, you have the New York Jets, who are in a very interesting situation. There's a lot that they need. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. Let's see. I'd like to go offensive line for them, I think. Um, I don't know. Um, let's go. Let's go Armand Membu from Missouri. I think he's going to be able to protect the pass from the tackle position, and that's exactly what the Jets need. I know they've been trying for years to protect the passer, and they've drafted some guys. Some have worked out, some have not. But I think you're in a position here with the Jets where I also agree they could trade out here. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. I think they're going to try to see how this year goes, and it could go very, very poorly for them with Justin Fields at quarterback. And I think they very well could end up in the top of the draft next year where they can take another quarterback in a much stronger class. So I think they're going to wait on Shadur and not take him here and just do whatever they can to protect Justin Fields and put themselves in a good spot for when they do draft a quarterback. They don't have to worry about significant offensive line issues.
Okay, at 1-8, the Carolina Panthers, I'm going to take Jalen Walker as a linebacker from Georgia. He can kind of go at the quarterback, also drop down into coverage a little bit. But go at the quarterback a lot. He did have 6.5 sacks. He had 60 tackles last season. He's very quick, can go sideline to sideline. Panthers, they need help on defense all around, and I think this will help them there. So I got Carolina taking Jalen Walker.
Okay. Number 9 here for the Saints. This is where I'm gonna have Shadur get taken. I'm gonna have Shadur go number 9 to the Saints. There's been a lot of hype recently of the Saints wanting to take a quarterback, and I think they're in a situation here where they're almost certainly gonna be able to get Shadur, unless the Giants decide that's where they want to go. But if the Giants pass on Shadur, I think he easily falls to 9 here, and I think they're also in a position where they could trade back a few spots and still be able to get their guy in Shadur, but they can get him here at 9 for sure. Saints are not going to be a good team next year. And unfortunately, I think it's kind of a tough position for a rookie quarterback, but they're in a spot at 9 where they can definitely take a guy like Shadur, and they have been rumored to like him a lot here throughout the draft process. So whether I think it's a good pick for them or not to take a quarterback, if you're probably going to be bad this year and you don't have a great O line, I would probably disagree with the decision. But as far as what I think is going to happen, I do think they take Shadur at 9.
Yeah, and at number 10, I have the Chicago Bears here, and I think this would kind of be a pretty easy pick for them if he falls at 10. I think this is a guy they go and trade up for. Like I said, at 6, maybe with the Raiders. I think they go and get Ashton Genty. They still need a running back, and you get a guy like Ashton Genty. I mean, you have Swift, but Ashton Genty's a difference maker. He can be a guy that he can be the best running back in the NFL. He's was fantastic in his last season. 1,800 rushing yards, 810 receiving yards, 41 total touchdowns. Was my personal. I think he should have won the Heisman at Boise State. One of the best running back seasons we've ever seen. So I have Ashton Genty here. I think he's going to be a fantastic NFL player as well. And adding him to that offense would be scary. You got him, DJ Moore, um, Caleb Williams, obviously, you already have Swift, Cole Kmet, Rome Odunze. It's a very young offense, and that can be a very, very good offense going ahead in the future. They've already kind of fixed the offensive line a little bit. I think they just address depth later in this draft on that side of the ball. But you go and get a running back here, and you're filling a hole with very elite talent. So I have the Bears taking Ashton Genty at 10.
All right, so the Niners here, as they sit at 11, I just think they desperately need some offensive line help. It's one of the things that kind of got away from them this year a little bit. They've had such a good offensive line in the past few years. I think they take Kelvin Beggs Jr. from Texas, the tackle. He has all pro upside, in my opinion. He's a great pass blocker. He has played some guard at points in his career. He played tackle for most of the year last year, so he's a versatile guy. Kyle Shanahan loves to have him some versatile offensive lineman that he could put in a couple different spots. He could possibly pull from the tackle position if he wants to get creative with it. So I like Kelvin Beggs Jr. from Texas going number 11 to the 49ers.
Yeah, that stole my pick here for the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys need help on the offensive line. Um, they need a running back. Then, unfortunately, Ashton Genty just got stolen from them. I could see them still maybe going receiver. They do need a second guy. I don't think Ted McMillan has been picked yet, right?
No, he's still on the board.
No. Yeah, I'm taking Ted McMillan then. I think they go out and make a splash move here and get Ted McMillan, number one receiver in the draft class. If he falls this far, I'd be shocked. But I'm going to take him here at 12 with the Cowboys.
Okay, the Dolphins on the clock. I'm going to leave you your boy for 14, who I assume you're going to take at 14. I'm going to go with this is tough. I feel like the
Yeah.
Dolphins could use some interior offensive linemen. I'm going to go with, oh man. Actually, no. I'm switching it up. He's still on the board. I'm going to take Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas. They could use some secondary help. They've lost some guys. Guys have gotten older for them in the secondary over the past few years. Jalen Ramsey, as we know, is getting up there. So I think that's a pick where you're looking to the future with Jahdae Barron. You don't have to immediately put him in and make him be a cornerback one-off rip, which corner is one of the hardest positions to learn in this league. And we've seen a lot of times a cornerback get drafted high, have to go play cornerback one or cornerback two immediately for a team, and then they just lose their confidence and everything they had in college goes away. So I think here's a situation with Barron where you don't have to play him right away. You can let him sit back, learn from some guys like Jalen Ramsey, and in the future he can end up being a great corner for them when they lose some of their guys. So give me Barron 13 to Texas.
Yeah, at 14, I think there's a couple ways the Colts go. I wouldn't be shocked if out of nowhere they go and take James Pierce Jr., the edge from Tennessee, and continue to draft edges every single season. But I'm going to pick Tyler Warren here. They need a tight end. They need to give Anthony Richardson another weapon to throw to and kind of give him everything you possibly can before you potentially move on from him if it's just not the right fit. So I'm going to go Tyler Warren here. He's very good. I think he's the best tight end. I definitely over Colston Loveland. He's a very good receiver. He can block very well. I would love this if it ended up happening. So I got the Colts taking Tyler Warren.
Okay, for pick number 15, I'm between a couple guys. I think they're gonna try to get a pass rusher at all costs here. I'm gonna go with Mike Green from Marshall at
Mhm.
15 to the Falcons. He's a good edge rusher. They needed somebody who has good length on the outside for them, who can get to the quarterback, long arms like Mike Green has. And we saw their production last year, worst pass rush team in the entire NFL. It would be insane for them to not take an edge rusher here after not really getting an edge rusher in free agency at all. So I think they're almost pigeonholed into having to take one here, which maybe take some guys off the board who they would rather have skill wise at 15, but you have to draft position of need here if you're the Falcons, and I think they go with Mike Green at 15.
Yeah, Cardinals at 16. Um, Again, a couple things I think they could do with this pick, but I think yeah, I'll stick with what I had. They need an edge rusher. They need more pass rush. That's kind of been one of their weaknesses recently. They did go out and get, I believe, Josh Sweat in free agency, and I think they go and get James Pierce Jr. here and pair those two together. Could be a very good duo. And the pass rush, James Pierce had a very good season for Tennessee, third in the FBS with 43 hurries, 12th with 55 pressures. So I'm going to take James Pierce Jr., edge rusher from Tennessee.
Okay, you said Pierce Jr., edge rusher from Tennessee. Gotcha. Okay, 17, the Bengals, who I believe are one spot up from last year when they were at 18. Here they sit at 17. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Jihad Campbell from Alabama. I know some people have him falling farther. I think he's a very skilled linebacker who can do it all. He's decent in coverage. He's a good edge rusher. And the Bengals are just going to need people on the defensive line who can help them. They're losing Sam Hubbard this offseason. So we know what their defense did. We know that they used Lou Anarumo as a scapegoat this season. I think they have to go and draft D-line and try to have somebody who's going to make an immediate impact. And I think Campbell can be that guy. So give me Campbell at 17 to the Bengals.
So that leaves me with the last pick of this mock draft and the Seattle Seahawks. Really don't know what the Seahawks would do here. They do have a pretty kind of new staff. They need offensive line help, specifically at offensive guard. They do need some defensive line help as well, and I could also see them going with a linebacker. Um, I th hmm,
Last pick here.
yeah, last pick of the draft. Um, I think I'm just gonna go with yeah, I don't know. I think I'll just go with Josh Simmons, offensive tackle from Ohio State. Maybe they put him at offensive guard. Um, yeah, I'll just go with that. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle.
All right. So that will do it for this mock draft here, our 18 picks. I'll read them off. We have Cam Ward, 1 to Tennessee, Abdul Carter, 2 to the Browns, Travis Hunter, 3 to the Giants, Will Campbell, 4 to the Patriots, Mason Graham, 5 to the Jaguars, Will Johnson, 6 to the Raiders, Armand Membu, 7 to the Jets, Jalen Walker, 8 to the Panthers, Shadur Sander, 9 to the Saints, Genty going 10 to the Bears, Banks, 11 to the 49ers, Ted McMillan, 12 to the Cowboys, Jahdae Barron 13th to the Dolphins, Tyler Warren 14th to the Colts, Mike Green 15th to the Falcons, James Pierce Jr. 16th to the Cardinals, Jihad Campbell 17th to the Bengals, and Josh Simmons 18th to the Seahawks. This will be our first of many mock drafts here in the coming weeks as we get into the NFL draft coming up in, I think, 3 weeks from this week that we're currently in. 3 weeks from tomorrow, I think, actually. But we will be back next week to do some NBA playoff preview. As we approach that, we'll probably talk some NHL futures as well. I'm in the market of placing 4 futures between the NHL and NBA. So hopefully by then I will have those 4 teams hammered out and ready to go. Thank you everybody for listening and watching. If you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. All the links in our description for TikTok, Spotify, social media, and all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next one.